You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where we bring on guests to ask them the hard questions by taking a deep dive into their teams, marketing strategies, systems, and processes on how they built a machine that spits out consistent deal flow month after month, where the value given during this show will help you find and create consistent deal flow. Today, I have a person I really look up to, Rhen. How are you doing?
I'm good, Aaron. Good to see you, buddy. Glad to be here.
And so, Rhen, who are you? What were you doing prior to real estate, and why the heck did you even get into real estate?
Man, I'm just a simple guy from Alabama, born and raised down in the dirty South. I'm a father and a husband. I got a little 8-year-old daughter and my beautiful wife, Megan. And so that's a little bit who I am. And how I got into real estate was actually probably an accident or destiny. I don't know. You could chalk it up either way, I think. But I was selling advertising about 6 or 7 years ago. And I heard about this investor meetup. And about the time that I heard about this investor, I had started, making some money and trying to figure out ways to grow my wealth. And, you read in all the books that everybody gets rich from real estate. All the millionaires and billionaires are from real estate. So I seen this investor meetup sign and kind of started doing some digging around and some research on who was doing it and why they were doing it. Well, it turns out, it also seemed like a great opportunity to sell this business owner some advertising. And so I went and met with the owner of the company, who eventually became my partner, and tried to sell him advertising. We hit it off pretty well. And, he ultimately, couple months later, ended up making me a job offer, which I declined because I was an admin. It was my identity. That's what I did. I built websites. I did social media, ran advertising campaigns, and, things just kind of lined up. And I ultimately he made me an offer, said, hey, if you come in, you double my revenue with what's your sales ability and your marketing ability, I'll make you a partner. That was 6 years ago. We had a good run there. We were together about 5 years, and then we split ways in July and, kind of went out alone, started doing a bunch of consulting, a bunch of coaching. That business has really blown up. And then, opened a shop in Atlanta with some guys there. And man, we've been having some success there as well. So that's where we're at now.
Okay, so you were doing, because I heard a little bit about your story on Disruptors, and it was fantastic. So you were just basically correct me if I'm wrong, you're a complete COO integrator, but you're also good at sales, and you really just built up that business. I don't know if I heard you right, but how did you switch from the advertising space to real estate?
So when you're running a wholesale business, it's not a wholesale business. It's not a real estate company, right? The way that I look at it and what I try to bring to everyone that I work with is you're a sales and marketing company is what you are, right? And that transitioned really well. It parallels really well in from the sales aspect of advertising and the actual execution of advertising campaigns into the wholesale game. And so, I'd done really well as a COO, but I think the primary driver behind that success is the ability to market to people, get them to respond, and then get the deal closed and then get it sold very quickly. I personally think I'm a terrible COO and a terrible integrator. I don't love spreadsheets. I don't love processes. I love to sell. I love to close deals, and I love to do it fast, right? And I kind of evolved myself into having to bring it all together systematically and process driven. But as soon as I could get out of that seat, I did. But, and a lot of people throw around that COO. I'm looking for a COO, a COO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that people need a COO until they're many levels beyond where they are. What they need is they need a director of sales and they need a director of marketing. They need somebody that can come in and drive revenue. And that's what I excelled at, and that's how we were able to grow and do what we do. We had a great run. We built up a business, $20 million wholesale company. I think we were in like 8 or 9 markets, 6 states. We had over 200 employees, and we did all that in 5 years, and it was pretty incredible journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was my big, actually, that was a huge thing that I always wanted to learn a little bit more about you. So when you talk about wholesaling, did you partner up with somebody first? Did you work under somebody? Did you start it from the ground up?
Yeah. So when I told you I partnered up with my ex-business partner, it was pretty much ground up. I think
Okay.
there was 3 or 4 employees when I came on. The previous year they had done like 55, 65 deals. But when I come on, we kind of rebuilt the culture. I think we had 100% turnover uh,
Oh,
inside of
wow.
the first year that I was there. And I think we did a good job of getting the right people on the team. We continued to up our standard of excellence for who we wanted to bring in and what our caliber of employee that was going to fit the bill and help us move the company forward. Um,
Right.
so yeah, that's kind of how that went.
Well, so I mean, so you said you had that 100% turnover. A lot of people that might be listening to this show are, because the audience that we're really going to be focusing on is not necessarily newbies, but not necessarily, people who maybe are your tier. So one thing, what advice would you give to somebody to do consistent month after month deal flow? Because I know you said you had this guy who was doing 60, 70 deals. I mean, to a lot of people, that's a lot of deals. And then you really elevated and scaled that. What's that number one key nugget that you would tell to somebody to do consistent deal flow?
Yeah. So, and that was 60, 70 deals a year, right? I mean, I definitely know to some people that's a lot, but
Right.
60, 70 deals a month is still not even a lot from what we got. It's
No,
really not.
you said that with a straight face.
Yeah, it's so easy to get there, and it's easy to get there quick.
Wow.
But I really think that the ceiling for most people, most entrepreneurs, most owners that are running these types of in businesses or any type of business in general, the ceiling is truly their ability to lead people and their ability
Mm,
to coordinate action
right.
and their mindset and feeling like they are worthy to go and accomplish the things that they can get out and accomplish. There's a lot of times we have that imposter syndrome or the fear that I was coaching one of my students, not a student, I hate calling him that, I don't know why I did, one of my clients the other day. And he's a young guy, 23, 24 years old, and all his salespeople are 23, 24 years old,
Mm,
and he's not getting the consistent results that he wants. And I'm like, hey, tell me about your team. Why do you have these people in here? How much money do they need to make? And he's like, well, John needs to make 3 to 4K. Where does he live? Well, he still lives with his parents. Tell me about Bill. Well, Bill needs to
right.
make like 2K. He's has a bunch of roommates. I'm like, there's your problem. These people are never going to produce consistent revenue because their minimum standard of living is $2,000 a month. I need somebody whose minimum standing living is $10,000 a month. What kind of revenue do you think they're going to produce? And so
Right.
first step is believing if you're young, and look, a lot of people that are just getting started in wholesaling, I still consider myself young, but a lot of these guys are, 20 to 30, and they do not believe that they can go out and hire a 35-year-old guy or gal
Hmm.
that is a seasoned professional. And that's just wrong, right? And so that's the
Right.
first step is you have to believe that you can recruit and retain and train top talent, bring them into your organization, because the level of performance that you're going to get from a 25-year-old with no bills that's worried about going out partying and just affording a nice car, and the level of performance that you're going to get from a grown man or woman with a family and a spouse and a mortgage is
Right.
far, far, far different. There's a big line of separation there. And so you got to get people that are hungry. You got to get people that have to show up to work. This is their career. This is not just a job for them.
I love that. Let me ask you this before I get into some other questions, because I'm personally taking I'm going to be personally taking a bunch of notes, and I've looked into being a part of one of your clients actually, because this is some impactful stuff, and I couldn't agree with you more. To get consistent deal flow is to find A players, rock stars, somebody who, and I like that the level of what is their income temperature level, right? So
Mhm.
what does your team look like? Are you a person who, and this is actually a personal question that I would like to know, are you a in-house kind of guy or a virtual salesperson? like preference?
Yeah. So I have a preference, but I don't. I mean, I live in Mobile, Alabama, and my entire team is in Atlanta, right? For the most part, I have some virtual guys that don't live in Atlanta, but so I'm virtual, but I go up there very often. But I think if you have the right people, so first off, my preference, just to be direct and not skirt tail around the question is, if I could be there in person every day and have everybody there in person every day, that would be my preference, right? But I think that you got to be a little bit flexible. There is great talent, phenomenal talent out there that can execute at a very, very high level and do it virtually. I do think that the whole virtual wholesaling model kind of came at the right time. Over the past 5 years, we have had an enormous tailwind at our back with the market, with the state of the market. And we could buy stuff at 90% ARV and turn around and sell it at 125% ARV, right? And it's easy to buy
Right.
houses in that environment. But when we get into an environment like we are now, I think that it's going to become much harder. And the seller and the buyer sentiment doesn't match. The sellers still believe that it's March 2022 and their house is, they're just, their mindset is inflated. And the buyers, they're buying extremely conservative, and so it's tough to get those sentiments to match as far as housing stock prices. And so I think you can buy deeper. I think you can build better rapport when you're face to face. I
Mhm.
also think that an A player, somebody that is motivated and driven and continuously works and polishes on their skill set, I think that they can succeed in a virtual aspect. All of my lead managers are offshore, and always will be. I have some opinions on that, but my closers, if I prefer for them to be face to face.
And
And
friend, sorry, when I say virtual, I'm talking about like as a like owner and having your salesperson in an office, or would you
mhm.
or and obviously or working from home.
And so they could work from home, but still go to appointments in person. Is that what you're saying?
Well, for example, one thing that I'm next year that we're going to be doing is really focusing on culture. Like I've always focused on culture, but next year it's going to be culture. Culture is going to be number one. And how, Ren, have you built that culture? Have you brought people like in an office, like in a lion's den, or are you having people virtual?
I've done it both ways. I've
Okay.
done it both ways. Hmm. Yep. And I think it can be done, and you can craft the culture that you want, but you have to be extremely intentional. Extremely
Mm,
intentional. You have to, language is the most powerful tool that we can possess as leaders, and you have to be very craftful in your language. And our culture, the building of our culture starts even in our interview process. The way that our recruiters speak to the potential candidate, it's a ballet all the way up through the interview process to the panel, until we get them in on their first shadow day. Their first day at work, right? They're met at their vehicle with their favorite cup of coffee. And so that
I
it's
love that.
that detailed, and how we speak to them, how we speak about them. You know, we're very intentional with that. And whether you're in person or virtual, it can be done. You have to be shifty in how you do it. But it's all about connecting with people and getting them to buy into the bigger vision,
Hmm.
and have an alignment there. And if you can do that, you can maintain a good culture. But you got to be accountable, right? Culture is maintained through accountability. A players want to be held accountable. Everyone else will hide from accountability, which is one of my favorite interview questions that we always ask people. And it stumps them every time is, how do you hide from accountability? That's
Wow.
a,
Okay.
that's a good question.
Yeah. What's a common response that you've heard? Yeah, that you've heard from that question.
Ah, man, the common response is I don't. I embrace accountability. I love it, right? And that was my initial answer. The first time I got asked that question, I was like, "Who you talking to? I'm Mr. Accountable." But then I went and reflected, and I got real with
Mm,
myself. And honestly, to be transparent, the answer to that question was I hid from accountability by way of my title, right? Depending on the time in the company or where I'm at, COO, CEO, consultant, I could put things off until tomorrow because I own the company.
mhm.
And so
Right.
after
Right.
some deep reflection, I found, hey, I hide by leveraging my title. And through self awareness, I had to ask myself, am I okay with that? Is that
Wow.
something, can I go out and preach accountability and discipline? but still hide from accountability by way of my title. And so there was some good self reflection that comes from that question.
I love that. That one hit me. You know, as the owner, sometimes you'll take that, right? I could just do this, do that.
Mm,
Um, but at the same time, right, as the owner, you definitely have to have a lot of self discipline, right? That which makes us who we are and why we come in the office every day, right? Nobody's
yep.
telling us to come into the office. Nobody's telling us to do these things. But that goes into my next question, Ren. What I mean, I can't even imagine. I don't know you too well, but I met you for the first time at our last CG meeting, and I was just blown away of who the person you were. Ren, what does your team look like now? Because I one of the titles that we saw in Disruptors, it was 100 wholesale deals in a month. What does your team to produce such volume?
Yeah. So where we're at now, I told you I exited a previous partnership in July, and that
Mhm.
company, we did 100 to 120 transactions per month. My team looks different now. I'm in a rebuilding stage, and I got
Okay.
three to four businesses that I'm working on. But my wholesale company in Atlanta, in 6 months, we've been able to grow it up to about 20 to 25 transactions a month. And I think through our annual planning, we should do over 200 deals in 2023. And depends on
That's
the
closed,
level.
right?
Yeah, closed
Yep.
deals. So our first year in business, but it really depends on the caliber of sales reps that we're able to get, how quick we're able to get them, and things like
Right.
that, right? The biggest thing from where I am now personally in this season of rebuilding this business and doing 100 to 200 deals a month is how quickly can I get good people, right? It's the human
Mm.
capital component. How quickly can I recruit, train, and retain A players? If that was unlimited, I would be there tomorrow, right? But you have to build a team, you have to build it organically. There's only so much capital that you can put into the company, as to bring people on with guaranteed pay and base salaries early on until they move to a straight commission percentage pay plan. But so the team that did 100 deals a month, it consisted of I think seven executives, six executives, and two owners, right? Two partners.
Okay.
There was a director of lead management, director of title, director of dispositions, director of acquisitions, um, CFO, and a director of human capital,
Mm. Incredible. And yeah, I mean, there's the
and a director of marketing. I left that out. So maybe there's seven.
okay. And how, I mean, going on down on the smaller side, what does your what did your virtual team look like? For example, I mean, did you have like cold callers? Did you have admins? And then also how many I would say acquisitions, sales reps that you needed to lock those deals up? And then also what did your dispositions to get rid of those deals? I mean, what is that? And let's not talk, we don't have to talk about the past. Your current team, what I mean, because
Yeah.
it's incredible that you're still building. You could just build it from the ground up because you already have the blueprint of that path, those past businesses.
So I'll run a 2-to-1 model, two acquisitions to one dispositions. And I
Mm,
don't call them acquisitions. I don't call them dispositions. We have internal and external language that differs. Because if you're on the phone, and I'll tell you why, if you're on the phone and you're a lead manager and you say, "Hey, I'm going to pass you over to my acquisition manager," nobody knows what the hell that is,
right.
right? The only people who know what an acquisition manager is are people in wholesaling. And so, we call them home buying specialists, right?
Mm,
Because we're still marketing as a title to the seller. So when the seller hears home buying specialist, they think, "Oh, okay." It makes more sense. They don't know who an acquisition manager is. And then on the disposition side, we don't call them dispositions; we call them investment sales representatives. Um, and so, but what my team looks like now is I have probably 8 to 10 cold callers, 4 to 5 texters, 6 or 8 lead managers, four homebound specialists, and three investment sales directors. And then I got two partners up in Atlanta.
incredible.
I have a director of marketing and a title girl. And I just hired a recruiter. So
There
that's
we
what we got
go.
now.
No, that's awesome. And actually, we call our acquisition guys home buyer specialists as well. And the reason why I say that, just like you said, we all know what an acquisition specialist is. So I knew exactly what I was going to talk about. But no, I mean, and so what do you look for in a sales rep? I know that's like that's kind of the big thing of why somebody's going to hire Rhen as I don't know if you like the word coach, but as maybe a mentor, to hire a sales team.
Yeah. I don't care what you call me. They say in Alabama, just don't call me late for dinner.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah. So in a salesperson in general, I think there's four pillars of every salesperson, right? There's attitude, there's work ethic, there's skill set, and there's strategy. I
Hmm.
look for a great attitude and a great work ethic.
Yeah.
The skill set and the strategy, that's on me as their sales coach to teach them those things. And so, but off the streets, if I'm bringing someone into my organization, number one, what makes a good sales rep is curiosity and a great attitude. And they have to be tenacious, right? We get
Okay.
hit in the face every day as salespeople. Like our literal job is to be told no, right? How uninspiring does that sound? And so I think that you got to be thick-skinned, but you got to have a work ethic and you got to have a great attitude. It all starts there. Um,
100%.
and for where we are in our sales organizations, I want to see that you got big bills, right? I want to see that high floor of standard of living, because if I recruit you over and your monthly expenses are $6,000 to $7,000, which means that at a minimum for you to make that money, you would have to produce $80,000 a month in revenue. And you come to my company and you don't, your
Hmm.
wife's probably going to divorce you, right? So the stakes are much, much higher. You're going to work much, much harder. You're going to be, you're going to burn the ships behind you. It's all in. You've got to make that money. And so, I look for people that are pretty established in life. They have something to lose. They're not coming here to try it out. They're not coming here to see if this is a good fit. They're not
Right.
coming here for a job. They're coming here because there's an opportunity to make a lot of money and be in a great culture and be supported and lifted up and to chase our purpose and our mission, which is to make the world a better place. And so, they need to have drive. They need to have ambition, but first and foremost, before any of that, Aaron, they have to be a good human being, right?
Yeah.
We have a set of core values that we hire and fire off of. And, if they're not a good human being, I don't want them on the team.
Love it. Love it. That goes right into my next question. Rhen, what does your marketing look like? I know you have somebody actually, it sounds like somebody that actually runs marketing. What does your
Mhm.
marketing look like to feed to your sales reps?
Do you mean like what channels are we using?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned there that you had texting, cold calling. I mean, what kind of marketing are you guys really focused on, and what do you think is really producing, um, good lead flow, good quality
Yeah.
leads?
So, coming from a marketing background, the goal should always be, as a marketer for any company, is to be omnipresent. And what that means is everywhere all the time.
Hmm.
You know, it's really hard to guess which type of personality profile will respond to which type of marketing. And what I mean by that as well is I could send you a text and you could respond to it. But if I send your grandma a text, she's probably not going to respond to it. She's probably not going to talk on a cold call, but she will respond to a piece of direct mail. And so our job as marketers is to be everywhere at all time, hitting everyone from different angles. I understand also though that we have limited budgets and we can't just go out and go heavy on texting, heavy on direct mail, heavy on cold calling, heavy on television, heavy on radio, and heavy on PPC. We'd be spending in a market like Atlanta $300,000 or $400,000 a month on advertising. And so we look at, hey, what can generate us the quickest ROI? What is sustainable? What takes the least amount of workforce to operate? And then how do we deploy that so we can drive revenue, generate revenue, so we can have and realize the profitability for the company the quickest, so then we can come back and continue to invest in marketing to feed our reps. And so for us, that chosen strategy when we do a market entry is probably, it's going to be text and cold calling. We're going to generate revenue from that. It takes more manpower, they're harder to get, the leads aren't always as hot, but they're definitely there and you can definitely convert. From
Yep.
there, we're going to probably expand that into a pay per lead service like Need to Sell My House Fast. Then from there, we're going to go into direct mail campaign targeting probably the top 20% of our list and our niche list, which are those people that are most likely to sell. I think that um, that's a strategy that I've used to open over 10 markets now. And it works. So
Are you in 10 markets right now, or was that your old company?
that was the old company. We had opened 9, no 8, I think. I don't know. Don't quote me to the numbers. I don't keep track of it. It's hard to keep track of it. Whatever it was.
It,
But now in Atlanta and then into another market in January.
awesome, awesome. And Ren, I have to ask you, as much as I see you and you're doing incredible things, my next question is, Ren, what is your number one struggle that you think you're dealing with, and how are you overcoming that right now?
It's a great question. Man, I'd probably have to do some self reflection on that. I can tell you not necessarily what I'm struggling with, but I can tell you, how about this, what I'm hyper focused on right now. Would that
Hmm.
be good?
That's
Personally,
perfect. Perfect.
yeah. So I am hyper focused on finance, personal finance.
Okay.
I have a couple guys that are very near and dear to me. One is Jason Medley. He owns the Collective Genius, and fortunately, he picks up the phone when I call. And one of the things that he's constantly preaching, and what we're seeing through this market downturn, is as we have had this enormous tailwind at our back, we've all made a ton of money over the past 5 years.
Right.
And unfortunately for most people, they have not taken care of their money,
Hmm.
right? They've blown it. They've continued to either blow it by trying to scale too fast, too far. They bought cars and vacation houses and airplanes and things like that. And now there's a bit of a market cycle, and people are losing their businesses. People are losing their
Right.
houses. People are looking up and trying and having to sell their rental portfolios to liquidate because they did not build a good enough foundation to sustain a couple bad months or maybe even a couple bad years.
Right.
I'm fortunate enough where I'm not in that place, but I'm looking and I'm seeing and I'm saying, man, maybe my foundation isn't as deep as I need it to be.
Hmm.
If I got sick, if I got cancer tomorrow and could not work anymore, could I provide the same quality of life for my family for 2 to 3 years? Today, the answer is yes. 6 months
Good.
ago, the answer 6 months, a year ago, probably not. But I also look at these old heads, these OGs that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I was fortunate enough to go out and meet with the guy that I really respect. He's been doing this 50 years. 50 years. And he's a extremely wealthy individual. And I just, pounded him for
Hmm.
information. Like, you're here. Obviously, I aspire to be there one day.
Right.
How'd you get there? And he looked at me, and one of the first things he said is, let me ask you this, Rim. The house that you live in right now, how much does it cost? And I said, well, and I'll tell you guys on it. Well, I live in Alabama. Real estate's pretty cheap. My house is probably $800,000 house. He said, okay. Well, I live in a much more inflated city. Housing prices are double. My house is about $700,000.
Hmm.
What's the difference? Well, I think it's humility, right? I don't need to live in an 800,000. Now, given I bought my house it was a wholesale deal. I got it. I didn't definitely didn't pay that for it,
Oh,
and I
nice.
put a lot in renovations. But it just goes to show, is he lives 2 to 3 steps behind his pay grade. And that
Right.
was my big takeaway from that. He's like, here I am, so much older than you, so much more wealthy than you, and yet my house doesn't even cost what yours does.
Wow.
What lesson does that tell you, Ren? And I thought to myself, well, I'm probably living at my pay grade or maybe, one step behind, definitely not 2 to 3. And so one thing that I'm really hyper focused on is staying humble and stacking my war chest, building my family legacy and my wealth, and not going out and buying new boats or new cars, um, or just dumb shit that
Right.
wasting money, right? I'm trying to be disciplined. Jason always says this. He says this to CG, he says this to everybody all the time. Making money is a skill set, which so many people have. Keeping it is a discipline.
It is.
And that drives home for me, and I don't wanna be looking up the next time we go through a market shift and be worried. There is no reason with the money that we make and the skills that we have, there's no reason that if you've been in business a few years, you should be worried right now, other than you didn't take care of your money, You didn't, when the getting was good, you weren't taking chips off the table. And so that's something that I'm trying to build in and be disciplined in and work with my wife on and also teach to my kid.
100%. I would actually say I'm in the same boat there, Ren. The funny thing is, so I got in this business. I was a fireman before this. Been in the business for about 3 years. We made a good chunk of change this year. But at the same time, we moved into our house. We had a wedding. We did a little bit of renovations to our house. So I me and my wife have sit down. We did the level 10s every single week, especially when this market, we felt the market shift. And yeah, it was a little bit of panic, you know what I mean? And we cut at our cost. We leaned out. And I mean, the good thing is, we moved on, and next year it was just, it's that wake up call. And I think that this
Yeah.
market has taught a lot of us, especially us new guys, has taught a lot of us to handle all that money that came in, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of us new guys, I remember, as a fire department, I was making just a little under 100 grand, right? And thinking
Yeah.
that that's the goal, right? To hit 100 grand, do some overtime, hit 100 grand, and that was it. Now we're looking into seven figures, right? And thinking like, holy crap, let's up our lifestyle real quick to where we always wanted to be. I'm gonna be honest, that's kind of how we lived it. But now we have everything we need. We have everything
Yep.
that we've always wanted, and now we are always, stacking away our chips. We're actually calling our 2023 the year of savings, and we're just going to
Mm.
stack away, just like you said. And been my biggest worry too. Is yeah, if I got sick and I couldn't work, would my family be able to? And I have a kid on the way. Would my family be able to survive? The good thing is
Yeah.
that we leaned out because of collective genius, and the things that you guys have told us and taught us is, and we've leaned out. We really focused on our business. We looked at all of our finances, and yeah, we're into our best months yet, going into 2023. So
Yeah. And I do think, right, and I was told this, and I never heard it that way. Maybe I knew it, but I never heard it that way, is there is a threshold of savings in which you should keep and remain liquid or
hmm,
easily accessible, right? Whether you pop it in a 6-month CD or a 1-year CD, there's a state of liquidity that you must keep accessible.
for
But
sure.
and you have to decide what that is. What's your standard of living? Where are you? And how quick can you get to that cash? But anything after that, hoarding cash, and this was said to me, and I loved it. It really hit me. Is anything above that is irresponsible.
Hmm,
As a savvy steward of your money, sitting on $1 million cash, you're not going to need $1 million. And if all things went, to hell in a handbag, you don't even need it over the next 2 years potentially. But it becomes irresponsible because now you could be taking that money and putting it into investments that continue to grow your wealth and your family lineage. And so,
right.
I think that, like I said, that's what I'm hyper focused on. And it's not so much the doing, it's the mindset and the discipline around doing it. Like 2 or 3 days ago, I
100%.
caught myself on a website looking at the new Corvette. And I
There
had
you
to
go.
have a checkup from the neck up. I'm like, dude, what are you doing on this website right now? Does that fall in line with your plan? Is the Ren that you want to be in 10 years, if he knew you were on this website right now, what would be the conversation?
Hmm,
Probably wouldn't be a good one, And so it's just I'm working on building that mindset and that discipline and just staying
love it.
super humble because there will be, look, we'll make it. We're in a downturn now, and we'll come out and we'll be doing really well again. And then guess what history tells us? There will be another downturn. And I want to make sure that mentally and financially and positionally, I'm not in a bind. I don't have to go through that stress with my family or with the people that work alongside me.
Absolutely. And that goes into my next question, Ren. What are your guys' strategy, you and your team strategies to get through this market correction, recession, whatever you want to call it, and coming out the other side even stronger?
Yeah, it's just a driving revenue mentality. All hands on deck, right? Everybody's doing sales. Both of my partners, me, everybody's hyper focused on sales, right? Sales
Mm,
saves. Skilled sellers weren't made in smooth seas. And so we're all rolling up our sleeves, we're getting our hands dirty, and we're getting after it every single day, making sure that we have the right people in the right seats and ensuring that you were driving revenue. Gone are the days that we get to sit up in our glass castle as owners and just watch
mhm.
our people work.
Right.
You can do that if you want, but I would caution you, right? Get your butt on the sales floor and go close some deals too. I have people, they come to me and they're like, man, revenue's down. We lost money last month. I said, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, that's why I'm calling you. I said, well, if you want my advice, get your ass out of the office and get on the phone and go make some phone calls and close some deals.
100%.
That's what you need to be doing. And so that's what we're doing. We're hyper focused on sales, man, but we're a sales and marketing company. We're making sure that we're leaned out. We're making sure that we're driving efficiencies, and we're making sure that we are fostering a collective mindset inside of our organization that we will make it through this. We will survive, and we will come out the other side and thrive. And, just staying super positive, but also keeping in mind that Stockdale paradox. If you don't know what that is, Jim Collins talks about it in his book, Good to Great. Admiral Stockdale was taken as a prisoner of war in Vietnam for several years, I think 7 years. And they interviewed him afterwards and said, hey, how did you survive? And the other people that didn't make it out, why did they not make it out? And he talked about they were internal optimists. They always thought, hey, we'll get out next month. We'll get out at Easter. We'll get out of this prison camp by Christmas. And then it would come and they wouldn't get out. And eventually they died of heartbreak. And what Stockdale talks about is taking and facing the brutal facts of reality and understanding what they are, not having this internal optimization that it's just going to be okay, but playing the hand that you're dealt, making the best of it. And that's what we're doing. We've been dealt the market correction. We've been dealt a downturn. We understand the brutal facts, and we're evolving, modifying our processes so that we can get through this and come out the other side, still be alive, because that's what you got to hear. Daniel Marcos was on Steve Trank's podcast a while back, and Steve said, what do you got to do? And he said, avoid game over. Avoid game over. And that's what we got to do, is avoid game over.
100%. You were the, I think it was actually you who said that, is get back in your game. This is the time to work in your business, not work on your business. And I took that to heart, and I took action immediately last time we were at CG. And yeah, I got right back in that sales position. Like I said, we were up at 4 acquisition guys at one point, and I was right back in it. And we had literally our best. And I'm not saying this to brag. Obviously we all claim, because nobody cares about your business, and as much as you do, as much as you want your team to care on your business as much as you do. But yeah, I got back in the sales seat, and boom, we had our best month yet. And that's because we saw the revenue, we saw properties not selling, and we had to take that stuff seriously. Leaned out, got back in the business, and then we're back on track. And it's because of the advice that you guys gave us.
Yeah, work is greater than worry. Work is greater than worry.
100%. Rhen, let me ask you this. You sound like a man who reads and listens a lot to some pretty cool things. What have you read or listened to that's just completely inspired you?
There's a lot of great books. I do read a lot. I'm a fan of studying the greats, right? If you think about it, all the titans of industry, everybody who has done anything magnificent in life has pretty much left us clues. Whether it's through biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, letters to their children. One thing I read right now is I think it's Rockefeller's 21 letters. And he writes like 21 letters over a course of a lifetime to his son, giving him tips and advice and tidbits and things like that. So it's all there, all the clues, like how to achieve success. Like everybody great, they've left you a roadmap of what to do. You just have to go out and find the map and read it, and then apply it to your journey. I'm rereading right now, Good to Great. I've read it 4 or 5 times. Every time I read it in life, I'm in a different season. I have a different lens. And, there are a lot of good lessons in there. And there's one lesson in particular. It's called the hedgehog concept. And what Jim Collins explains about the hedgehog concept is something that I think is very parallel to the times that we're going through now. But he goes on to explain, is we all know the hedgehog. It's this clunky little creature that's got these spikes on his back. Or the porcupine, not the hedgehog. Or maybe, I don't know, porcupine, hedgehog, either way, whatever. He's got these spikes on his back. And every day his number one job is to go out and eat and stay alive. That's it. That's all he focuses on. Going out, he does the same thing. He goes and he eats on the vegetation and he stays alive. Well, the number one predator or would-be predator is the fox. The fox thinks that he's smart, he's cunning, and every day he goes after this porcupine or hedgehog, whatever it is. We're going to call it porcupine and stick with that, okay? He goes after this porcupine. Porcupine sees him coming. He balls up. The fox tries to attack him. He gets poked in the face. He runs off. Porcupine goes about his business, eats, and goes home. The next day, the fox shows up. He's quick. He thinks porcupine. He's got a new strategy. He's going to attack it from a different angle, maybe jump, whatever it is. What's the porcupine do? He balls up. The fox gets hit in the face. The fox just keeps coming back every day, and trying a new strategy of something that doesn't work. The porcupine always wins. He's got one strategy. He sticks to it. He keeps his head down and he maintains. And that's something that has hit on me, is we always want to try something slick or, there's there is something that works and it's called work. Nothing works if you don't. And that porcupine, he goes out every day and he just works. He does the same thing. He keeps chopping. He keeps chopping. He keeps chopping, and he lives and he thrives and he survives. Whereas the fox, he's always trying to conjure up some new plan or some new scheme, some get rich quick scheme, if you will, right?
Yep.
There's the relatable moment, and it just never works out. When there's a tried and true method out there that works, and we just have to stick with it long enough. And yes, times are going to get hard. And yes, things are going to change. But we just have to keep chopping, keep chopping, keep chopping.
No, I love that. And me and my wife preach that all the time. And we use the book, The One Thing, right?
Mhm.
That the one thing is when I first read that, and because of there's so many avenues you could go in real estate, as you already know. And I think we see a lot of people, they want to do the sub two, they want to do wholesale, they want to do the real estate agent, they want to buy rentals real quick. There's so many things that you can make money. And then they see crypto, and then they see another business. And I think we're all guilty a little bit of that. But for us, I feel that to get us to where we are at now is because we did focus on wholesale. And now obviously we have expanded a little bit, but we focused on one thing to get us there quick by focusing on, and then the things that were in it, such as, building our teams, marketing, and really perfecting those big things to build a company and culture around that. No, that's a great share.
I just looked it up, by the way, because it was bugging me. It is the hedgehog concept. The hedgehog concept. So, but yeah, I think it's that. There's another concept that he discusses and he talks about as paramount when you're studying these good to great companies is they all had level 5 leaders. And, I won't go into explaining exactly what a level 5 leader is because Jim Collins does it much better than I ever could. But good to great companies have level 5 leaders. And that's what I'm always seeking to go out and find is where's that level 5 leader? How can I bring them into my organization, put them in their genius zone, and then get the hell out of their way and let them work?
Yeah. No, 100%. Here's the thing that I would love to ask you, as a person who's built a team, level 5 leaders, who would you hire first, such as, let's use sales team as an example. Obviously so you have your sales reps and then you have your sales manager. Would you hire and train a sales manager before you hire sales reps, or would you hire sales reps and then pick a sales manager out of that? What does that look like?
Nope. So I don't hire management from outside.
Okay.
And there's two reasons for that. It's number one, I don't have the right people in my organization to begin with. If I have to hire a sales manager from outside, and so I have no business hiring a sales manager to anyway. And secondly, our sales reps and our sales process and the product that we buy and how we trade paper is so dynamic and so unique. I truly feel that for a sales manager, I call them sales coaches, to be successful, they have to sit in the seat and understand what it's like. They don't have to be the best. And in fact, my best sales rep probably is going to struggle as a sales coach or sales manager for many reasons. But they need to come in and they need to understand what it's like. They need to struggle. They need to understand the process, because if you don't play the game, how can you coach it?
Right.
And we play such a different game, if that makes sense. Now,
100%.
I'm always hiring for a director of sales. And a lot of times in our interview process, people are like, hey, your ads are misleading. this was a director of sales ad. And I say, well, I'm looking for a director of sales. But in order to get there, this is where you have to go through to get there and ascend to the director of sales. And if they're not open to that, I'm not open to them.
Gotcha. No, I love that. Rhen, let me ask you this. Gosh, there's so many myths about real estate. What would you say that is a myth about real estate that you would like to debunk right now?
That you can get rich quick. Yeah.
Right.
I think that a lot of people get into real estate because they see the gurus with the Lambos, the big houses, and look, that can come if that's what you want, but that takes years of hard
Hmm.
work and discipline to get that. Yeah, can you get lucky and fall into a couple $100,000 wholesale deal or, yes, but it's going to be gone. It's going to go just as quick as it came. But
Yep.
to building wealth takes time. And people underestimate or they overestimate what they can do in 1 year and severely underestimate what they can do in 5.
Hmm.
And so
Ain't that the
I
truth?
think that, yeah, it is. And so, you can build wealth quickly, but, I just think, and they think that it's easy as well. Like this business is not easy. And you have to have a very large amount of grit and tenacity to get in and operate on the day to day, and it's a people business. If you're going to
Yeah.
scale, you got to be good at people.
Right.
That's
100%.
another one. If you think you can get in here and not be a manager and scale out a team, you're wrong. And another myth, since we're on the myth roller coaster here, a lot of people think hiring a COO is going to solve all their problems,
Hmm.
and that's false. You may grab that unicorn that really helps, but it's not going to solve your problems. The buck stops with you. Your ceiling is your ability to lead and coordinate action with people. And so if you're not
Right.
a great leader, you're never going to have a great company. Doesn't matter who you bring in.
No, 100%. One thing I remember I still remember. You definitely have had an impact on me because when you remember the first thing that somebody tells you, it's like, hey, that's a good, just let you know we definitely look up to you. The first thing you said to me, and I don't know why you said it to me, but you looked at me and you say, wholesaling is a grind. And I was like, isn't that what you do? Like wholesaling? And so I thought that was pretty funny. And also, I like what you said here is, you got to understand people. And so one book that I always reread is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, I know everybody likes to put that one, but man, that book tells you how to really deal with people and deal with your sellers, deal with your team. And yeah, so my ultimate goal is to master that book.
Yeah, that's probably my number one recommendation for someone just getting started. And I've gifted that book probably more than any other book. It's an amazing
100%.
book.
Well, hey, Rhen, again, I know you have your busy schedule, coaching businesses. Thank you again so much for hopping on here and letting me pick your brain a little bit. Again, this is just a short clip of who you are, what you do. So again, if you're watching the show and you think you got some value, please go bug the crap out of Rhen. He's a complete go giver. Rhen, where can we find you to bug you, DM you on social media?
Instagram, hit me up on IG at Rhen Barlett.
Awesome. All right. Hey, well, we'll see you next time here at the Real Estate Block Podcast.